Hey guys, and welcome back to this YouTube channel whereby in this tutorial series we're going to talk about Django and how to use Django to create beautiful web servers which will power up our front end. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a Django website in 3 minutes. So to start it off is that just a point to note that I use ppnv to install my dependencies. So I know most of you guys maybe use pip. So I recommend you guys using ppnv. ppnv is very easy to use and manages all the dependencies that you have to use. So when using pip, you have to do something like, let me just show you point blank. So if you are using pip, the first thing we have to do is that we have to create a virtual environment using virtual env. So what we do is python-m venv, and then we create an environment called then the name. So let's say Django. Let me just call it VNV. So what does this mean? So you're saying Python create as a virtual environment, and a virtual environment is an isolated environment that lets us install dependencies of our application inside an isolated environment away from the main Python installation directories. So if you run this command, you can see we created a virtual environment. This is what normally people do. And then so we created a virtual environment using python-m. You call the virtual environment and then you call the virtual environment name. So this is what we typically do. So if you want to activate this environment, and by activating we say that we want our current application to use that virtual environment. Okay, yes. So to use that virtual environment, you can see here in the virtual environment we have some scripts, and then if you want to activate this virtual environment, you start with the word source and then go to the virtual environment. This is the path to that virtual environment, and then you can see inside that virtual environment we have a scripts. So you go to scripts and then you activate that scripts. So you can see now here on top of here we have our environment which matches the name of our environment. So that means that anything we installed here using pip will use that isolated virtual environment. So I normally don't use this. So I'm going to delete this folder, then show you how I create my virtual environment using ppnv and how to activate using ppnv very fast. So first thing is, let me create a directory called Django web server. So I can cd into that, and then let me open this directory. So we are back to here we are, and then now to use ppnv you have to go to this, to go to ppnv pypi.org/project/ppnv, and then find the installation instructions to use ppnv. Now the benefit of using ppnv is that you don't have to manage the dependencies. Maybe you installed Django version 3, and then when installing another package that is dependent, so ppnv controls all that, and then it groups all that into and makes sure that those packages are compatible with each other. But when using pip, you have to manage those. You can install maybe Django 3 and then you have a project that requires version 4. So ppnv will take care of all that. So you can come back here. Now to use ppnv, you use the ppnv. You can see all these commands are available here. How to use ppnv, all these commands are here. So you can head over to that website and then you install ppnv and then everything will be alright. So you call ppnv and then you call the shell. Now this shell creates a virtual environment, but the best thing about this is that it doesn't create a virtual environment inside our project. Like you saw in using pip, the virtual environment was found in our project directory. Now that's not the case with our ppnv. ppnv now uses another location. You can see now the location here So here's where the pip file is. We can click and go and check that. So now we can see this is where our virtual environment has been created. So let me make this one big. So this is the folder. So it has created at this point. Now it has a directory. It creates in a directory called virtual environment and then the name of our environment. So if I click this one, now I have just clicked. So I have just clicked on through the virtual environment. So this is the folder whereby our virtual environment is found. Okay. So we still have the same things, but now it is outside our project, and then our project now gets smaller, and then we don't have a problem whereby we have to put a virtual environment in a git ignore or something of that sort. So very fast. Now in Windows, to activate this virtual environment, you have to go to this location and activate that virtual environment. So how do we do that? Let me show you how we actually do that. So you copy that path. This is how I do it, and I recommend someone using it, but there is so many ways to kill a cat, and then you can use each way you want. So the same way we used source in the same way we use source in pip in virtual environment, that's the same way we use that in ppnv. So the main reason I'm changing this is because I'm using a bash environment, and bash, so you can see this one is running on git bash. So git bash is a Linux bash, and then it doesn't allow backslashes. Backslashes are just for PowerShell. So you go into that directory, then you call the scripts. Then inside the scripts, you can activate it. Oh, I forgot to use source. So don't worry about that. So what do you see? Now our virtual environment is activated, but we are inside our, but you can see it. So you can open our file explorer here. So let me open this one real quick. So I'm looking for that so that you guys can see your portion. So now here it is. So now here I'm in my directory. So I want to show you the current location whereby the folders are installed. So now you can see the dot virtual environments, and then now here this is where ppnv installs our dependencies and isolates them. So ours is called Django first site. You can see now inside this Django first site, you go into the scripts and then activate it. So this is the environment, and then now here in the lib site packages, this is where Django, the dependencies of our application will be installed. So what did I do here in this URL? Let me show you this URL. So this URL says go into this directory and activate it. Okay, so that's basically what we did. So you go to that URL and activate it. So now how do we now to install packages, you just basically come and say ppnv install Django, and it does it. So you can see it is installing Django in our activated virtual environment, and let's just finish. So you can see we have a file here called pip file log. This is just like the package.json for JavaScript projects, whereby it lists all the dependencies of our project. So in case this project is pushed into source control like Git, anyone using this project can come and reinstall the dependencies of our application. So you can see what happened here. So this one is adding Django to our pip file. So pip file is where it's like package.json for those who know JavaScript, and it updated the pip file log, and then it is managing all the dependencies under the hood, and you don't have to do anything else, any configuration. It does that. So if a package is not configurable with another package, then it takes care of that. So we have Django installed, so don't worry about the pip file log. This one is just like the package.log package.log.json if you have used JavaScript frameworks. So we have Django installed in our, we can head back to our So let me show you where we were before. So virtual environments, Django first site. I want to show you where these things are installed. So you can see this one is our Django. This is our Django package has been installed into our virtual environment, and that means that there is no collision that will ever happen with our other packages installed global. So we can call the Django admin and start a project, and give it a name. So we can say starter. But now here is a tricky part. If you do this, it will create a new folder, and then inside that folder it will create that project. Now how do you tell it that we want our folder to be in the current folder? You add a dot at the end. Okay, let me show you what will happen if you don't put a dot. So you can see Django created as a site. Now it created a folder, and then inside that folder it created our project inside that project folder. We don't want that. So what do we want? So to prevent that, you call the Django start project and then give it a full stop and say this one is, please make it in our current directory. So you can see Django created as our initial files. So we have the init, the ASCII, the settings file, we have the urls.py file. This is where we configure our URLs, and the current URL is the admin. We only have the admin. Then we have the WSGI. This one is the callable object that bootstraps our application. So we have started our project. Now we have just installed Django. We have started our project with Django. Now let me show you a trick here. So I have just run Django admin -- help. So you can see Django admin can help us start an app, start a project. Everything is here. You can check, dump data, share, everything. We also have another command. Now there is a special file in Django called manage.py. So manage.py is the entry point to our application. So how do you start this application? So we call python manage.py, we call python, and we call this manage.py file. Then we have several methods here that can help us. So you can see we have check, db check, but the most commonly one used is the run server command. So this run server runs our application. So let me run this one, python manage.py run server. So our server is running at this port. We can see it generated as our db.sqlite. Now where is this db coming from? So by default Django creates as let's go to the database. So by default Django creates as a database of SQLite. We'll talk about this later. And then so our project has started on port 8000. So where got that URL? Here. Don't worry about the migration, we'll talk about that later. So we have our development server starting at port 8000. So what will happen if I come to localhost? Yay! As beautiful as it is, we have installed Django and we have started our project using Django. Now let me show you something very quick, how we can start an app in Django. Let me stop this server. So you say Django admin start app. Let's call this one base. So Django admin creates us an app we can use. Okay, and then inside this app we have to go to the settings file and register this app in a list of installed apps. This is an app we have installed, so we have to come here and register it. Okay, this one is our new app. So this one is our newly created app. We can come here to the URLs. So I want to show you something really cool about Django. So path, we want the default path. We include okay. So let me remove this one. So you can see I have just used the include function. So the include function used in the URLs is used to say, hey, when you have a request at the root means an empty. So at the root, whenever you have a root to the at root, route all those to the base.urls. Now where is base.urls? We haven't created base.urls. So you come here very quick and create .py. Okay. Then we can come here to our URLs, copy this one. Don't need the include. We don't need these ones. So path. So I want every time it is at the home. So let me import views from dot import views. Then you can say views.home. Don't worry, we'll create this function very fast. So what are we doing here? So what we are doing here, we are saying whenever there is a request from the root of the folder, include the base.urls. Who is the base.urls? So base is the app, then the URLs. Okay. So we can save this one and go to the URLs. It will come here and find, hey, we still at the root. Now go to the views module, and then there is a function called home. That function is responsible for doing whatever thing we want. So we can come here into the views, we can call, let's create that function home, takes in a request. Now this request is the request that is coming from, this is the request that is coming from the server, from that request, the request object, whatever is happening to the view. So if you make a request to that endpoint, that whole request, its data, it's everything is brought here, and then you have to grab that request in the function as the first parameter. Okay, so if you have a URL that has a key like this one, maybe we have local port 8123, then you have products /1. Now these one query parameters are, these ones come as a primary keys or maybe an ID, but not talk about that. So I want to, from Django.http, I want to import the HTTP response. Whenever you have a request here, we return a HTTP response and say hello world. Okay, let's see what will happen. So what have we done? To recap very fast, so we have said here in the urls.py, whenever you have a request to the slash, this one is the home, this one means the root of the website, go to the base.urls and include the URLs. So it will come to the base.urls, and then at the base, the first thing we say, hey, if this is the base, go to the views module and find a function or a handler called home, and then the handler called home is responsible. Now this is the home, we imported this home, everything that comes from the index, take that very fast to the home. Okay, and then the home uses the HTTP response to respond to us, to the server, to give us a response and say hello world. You can say hello world, welcome to Django. Yay! Now let's run our server and see what's happened. Okay, so our server is running. Don't worry about the migration, we talk about this later. So these are our migrations. So we have those URLs. There's also another URL you can see from /admin. Django is a battery included framework which comes with everything included. So what happens? So we have the admin route. Now this admin route is already built for us to help us manage data in our application. Okay, don't worry guys. Let's go to our web server. You can see this was the what would happen when you refresh this site. I hope you guys can see this. This is very awesome. The most awesome thing you have ever seen. Yay! So what happened? So the request came to our base, and then the base said, now the views module is responsible. So this views, the home is the one that is responsible to respond to this request. So it did respond, and it gave us a response of hello world, welcome to Django. Now inside here we can do many things. We can return a HTML, we can do whatever thing we want. Okay, I don't know you guys can understand. Maybe someone is not, but we'll talk about that later. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you did like what you saw in this video, please like the video, subscribe to this YouTube channel to help it grow, and see you next time.